Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Beth Burns. I am president of the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. And again, I am so glad to be with you today. This is another in our series of going behind the scenes at the library, finding out about corners of the work of the library that maybe we don't see every day, and programs and services that maybe we may not interact with directly, or maybe we do, but that others may be curious about. And today we are going to go behind the scenes with two of the library's amazing staff members to talk about the Innovation Lab. Before we do that, I want to say thank you to each of you. Programs like the Innovation Lab are possible and really come into being oftentimes through private donations that then become partnered with public dollars, and that's how the library works. So your support for the Friends and the support of places like the Knight Foundation and the Nicholson Family Foundation all help make this work possible. And we're really, really grateful for you today and every day in keeping the library going. So now let's get to our conversation. First person I'm going to introduce is Xenia Hernandez. Xenia's title is Community Services Coordinator and Workforce and Innovation Center Manager. Xenia, what does that mean? What is your job like on a day-to-day basis?
Thank you. Let me think through that. Yeah, so as a community services coordinator, I have a system-wide role that's focused on economic opportunity initiatives. So the programs, the projects that really help support small business and entrepreneurs, workforce, digital literacy, and now we're also looking to add more financial literacy pieces as well. And then part of that is also space management. So we have the Innovation Lab, which is in the Nicholson Workforce and Innovation Center, and I help manage the space through working on partnerships, collaborations, bringing members in, thinking through budget pieces, and helping eliminate barriers to new members coming into the space. And so that's my role. But then like the true activator and executor would be Andrea.
Well, and that's a perfect transition, Andrea. Now it's my opportunity to introduce you. You are the Innovation Lab Coordinator. And so I asked the same question. What does that mean? What does your life look like in the library on a daily basis?
Thank you. I spend my time helping patrons with the equipment, developing training materials for using the equipment, classes on the equipment and other maker programs at the Innovation Lab. And I also coordinate volunteers and interns to work in the space.
Super. Well, even in these introductions, one of the things that I'm really noting is that we're using language and words that maybe we don't always think about as affiliated with the library. So I heard the word maker, and you hear the word member, and we talk about equipment. And so before we go any further with this broad discussion, Xenia, what is the Innovation Lab?
Yeah, so the Innovation Lab is a space. It's a space to learn and explore and collaborate. And what we offer is access to technology, access to creative software, and then really special resources like our staff. So you get a lot of help in learning how to use that equipment and apply it to just different life goals. It could be your business, it could be art, it could just be exploring a different maker topic. And maker is really anything that falls under handicraft, science, technology, and yeah, it's really the space where people can come and explore. And we do run on a membership basis. So it's a separate membership from the library, but it's still free. And we are really focused on providing access to adults, but we have programs for all ages as well.
Okay. And where is the Innovation Center located? Which library branch?
Yes, thank you. So it is located in downtown St. Paul in the George Latimer Central Library, and we are on the 3rd floor. So you can take the stairs, you can take the elevator, find us on the 3rd floor. We're across from the magazine room. And then we have beautiful views of the Mississippi on one side and then Rice Park on the other side as well.
I can vouch for that. It's a great, great space. So who works with you? Who on a daily basis is in the Innovation Lab?
Yeah, so Andrea is in the Innovation Lab on a daily basis. And then we have two other WIN Center or Innovation Lab team members, Andrea Gansers and then Anders Ofteli. And so that's all of those are our AAA staff.
Right.
There's a lot of A's, and then I'm the only X. And so they really build relationships with members, run the training, develop programs, and I'm here as support. And then a couple days a week, I come in and also work the desk.
Mm-hmm.
But I visit a lot of other libraries, so you'll definitely see some of the other faces here more on the.
And there's a real role for volunteers, is there not, in the Innovation Lab?
Yes. I can have Andrea answer that.
Yes, currently we have a wonderful volunteer dentist who teaches our laser engraver class every Saturday. He's a great resource. We have also had volunteers teach sewing, crocheting. Also, we have had college interns help people with their questions about the recording studio or using Photoshop, all those sort of things.
Sounds great. And it does sound like there are some pretty unique skill sets and experiences that you need in those kinds of roles. So that's fantastic. So Andrea, where did the idea for the Innovation Lab come from?
The library had done some research initially with programs for teens. We went to visit the Chicago Public Library, and they had a wonderful teen technology space. So we started off with teen-only spaces because we learned teens learn best in a space with other teens. But we also noticed then that adults really wanted to make stuff too. And they often have businesses or art that they want to do. So we were lucky enough to get a grant from Todd and Martha Nicholson for business and entrepreneurship. And we thought that would be a great resource for entrepreneurs in St. Paul.
That's great. So when people come to the Innovation Lab, what do they do? We've sort of alluded to sewing and different equipment, but I think help us understand like what's actually in the Innovation Lab and what do people do at the Innovation Lab?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so we used to be just in one small room on the third floor, and we've now expanded to about half of the floor, which is really nice. But people used to find us just by Googling things like 3D printer, free laser engraver, things like that. And then they could just come and explore the space. So there's a few ways. Some people are looking for specific equipment at no cost. And so we're a gold mine for that here in the library. Other folks have like really specific interest in art or business. So those are kind of our target audiences. And so they come to either build skills, attend classes, build relationships. And yeah, they do develop products here as well. So it can be anything from a clothing line to a music album, to a new invention. I mean, there's quite a lot, as we were kind of going through memory lane of every project. We were really impressed, and I think we'll probably get a chance to talk about that a little more.
Yeah, I cannot wait to sort of dig in like who's done what, but we'll get to that a little bit later. I think it's just really helpful to sort of start at the beginning. For folks like me whose relationship with the public library was about books, it was, when I went to the library as a kid, it was like, how many books are they going to let me check out? And even today, my relationship with the library is still very much oriented as a reader. But I think for our donors and for people throughout the community, it's so helpful to realize that libraries are not book repositories. They're about information and seeking and coming together. And I think the work that you guys do just exemplifies that seeking and information and how we learn can happen in so many different ways. And this just feels very responsive to that. You had talked, Andrea, a little bit about how initially, maybe after Chicago, teens were a focus of the work. Today, who is using the Innovation Lab and let's start getting a little bit into more of like who shows up and what are we seeing happen?
Yes, so currently membership requires being 18 or older to use the equipment on your own. Though people do bring their kids to watch and that they can learn the equipment while the kids can learn about it too. And we have our weekly classes in the 3D printer and laser engraver are open for everyone. We also have a monthly lab after dark make and take activity that's open to all.
Okay. You meant, again, this now has been said a couple times. You mentioned membership. Why did you guys decide to go the membership route?
I think because it really helps us develop relationships with the patrons and realize where they are in their journey of learning. We get to know everybody's first name, can say, hey, Lee, how are you on the 3D printer? Are you good on your own or do you need help getting started? Stuff like that. It's really great to see people learn and grow from being like possibly very timid and worried about breaking something to being able to where they could help others use the equipment.
So if someone currently isn't a member and is curious about getting involved, how would I do that? How do I start?
So becoming a member, you do need your library card, which of course is free.
Check. Got
Yes,
that.
check mark. And then we currently have an online orientation that anyone can do at home on their own time, just with a few questions and explanations of the rules of the space. And they can also, if they come in, anyone who comes into the lab, we're happy to give them a tour and a brief explanation of each piece of equipment. And then they could also do their online orientation when they come in if they prefer.
Okay. And is the Innovation Lab open whenever George Latimer Central Library is open?
Not currently. We're still building up our staff and interns and volunteers to our pre-COVID levels, but we do have it open every day that we're open except Sunday currently.
Yeah. Okay, super. So what sort of projects have your community members and members worked on, made? I mean, Zinnia, you said you were thinking back on this sort of list of what people have done over the years. Paint a picture for us. Give us some examples of like things that have been made in this space.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, and there's an overlap sometimes between what's a business piece, what's just an artistic piece, and what's a brand new invention that the person maybe doesn't actually care to sell or patent. But we've had a lot of prototyping done in the space, anywhere from like new beauty tools to medical devices. I gotta say it, catheters. So prototypes of all sorts, adapters for photography. There's been a lot of people come in to print parts that are no longer made for equipment. And so that's been really cool. And people work on developing their own music. So in our recording studio, for example, there is a lot of original music. People can bring their instruments. We currently have a family trio that comes in and plays together. We've also had a variety of voice actors, podcasting done, authors that are narrating their own titles. And then we can help them through that process. So learning how to do the recording, maybe work like checking out a book on how to build your portfolio, uploading files online, posting them on SoundCloud. So there's a little journey there of what people are doing. And then one of the other stations that I really like, and actually Andrea is sitting in it right now, is our digitization space. And this is sort of a memory lab where people can come in and convert physical media like VHS tapes, LP and vinyl records, cassettes, pictures, slides, and convert those to digital files and really like share those out to their family and friends. And that's just a really beautiful space. And you know, people are coming in with really personal projects when they walk in the lab. And so we really try and make that as comfortable as possible. And, you know, we make tissues available in there as well. So it's really a lot of projects.
Oh my gosh, I just love that. I didn't know that you guys could digitize slides. I was like, I'll be signing that out. I need to be a member because, oh my goodness, my parents have crates and crates of slides that are like all my family vacations when I was a little kid. So fascinating. I have a friend who used the recording studio during the pandemic. She was an equity actress, was working regularly in theater in the Twin Cities. And, you know, of course, there wasn't much going on the Twin Cities theater stages over the last couple of years. She used the recording studio in your space to create her very first demo tape as a voiceover artist. And it has turned her career into a complete new direction. And she found the experience to be incredibly supportive at a time that she was feeling very insecure and vulnerable already in her chosen profession, but made worse through the pandemic. So I have this friend who's like such a champion of what you guys are doing there. And you made a difference for her during a very, very difficult time. I have to ask about sewing machines.
Mhm.
So when I was growing up, my mom was very committed to making sure I learned how to sew, which I'm really grateful for now in my adult life. But I think there are some of us who might think of sewing as maybe more of an antiquated, well, who sews anymore, and have no idea just how incredibly popular it is, particularly among young people. Can you talk a little bit about what you see and who's on those sewing machines and the role of sort of fashion design and all of that and how that shows up in the space? Because I find that fascinating.
Well, we have a Somali native speaker who's an excellent seamstress, and she often brings her friends and will teach them how to sew. So that shares the skills throughout the community. For people we might have trouble reaching because of the language barrier. So that's really great. We've also had inventions and prototypes too on the sewing machine. We had a person who was making a special sort of running sock. So they wanted to do a prototype on the machine. Of
Wow.
course, there's people who are selling their items on Etsy as well.
And we have quite a variety of machines, new machines, machines with embroidery, vintage machines that are donated to our space. We have a serger as well. So on the fashion design side, we do have quite a bit of young adults. And also, I mentioned we have some special programs that target specific communities. And our current specialist right now is working with youth 16 to 26 in a space, and they're learning a lot of new skills. So part of it is the sewing machine, and the other part is media lab, so creating their own fashion line, and then doing photo shoots in the media lab space, and posting them online, so like actually selling the product after they've been making it. But yes, sewing it's really popular. We're actually right now in the middle of creating a dedicated area for the sewing machine so that they can actually just be out in the open. People don't have to go collect them from the closet every time. But yes, very, very popular.
Do people bring in their own materials when they are going to use the sewing machines, or are there also materials available there for use?
Both.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, so people can bring their own materials, and then we have a lot of donated fabric. We've also purchased some fabric, and then different sewing notions. So that's all available. We don't charge for any of the supplies in the lab, but that's not always. We don't have everything available, so people do still bring their own. And what's really nice is that our members really feel a sense of ownership and community in the Innovation Lab. So when they notice some things, they hook us up. They'll bring some things, weaving machines, other music equipment, like just all sorts of things. So it's really nice. And there's always an opportunity to just keep experimenting with what we offer.
Wow, absolutely amazing. Thank you for that. How about the 3D printer? Going to that piece of equipment, which I know so very little about, what is sort of the coolest thing you've seen created on the 3D printer, or just some different things you've seen? And maybe for folks, let me not assume that people know what a 3D printer is. Catch myself. Tell us what a 3D printer is, and then tell us what the coolest thing you've ever seen has been made on it.
So a 3D printer creates three-dimensional designs via computer-assisted design software. So it uses material called filament, which is melted at a high temperature, and layer upon layer and layer is printed until you have a 3D object.
So you actually end up with an object that you can hold in your hand.
Yeah. And I've seen things like inventions, as Xenia was saying. We had a clock maker who would make the hands of the clock on the 3D printer. We had a gentleman who did an adapter where you can use binoculars with your smartphone to connect the two. We have a person who was going to make their own board game. And he was making the pieces on the 3D printer. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I just have to mention that a really cool thing about the 3D printer is that almost every kid under 16 or any 4 or 5-year-old that comes in just knows what it is automatically.
Yeah.
And they're just ready to start using it. So that's always fun to see. A lot of times it's kids are really aware of what we have. So it's just really nice to see some of the inventions and the things that they want us to print too.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Sometimes it may be on their curriculum at school, so sometimes they can teach their parents how to use it.
Oh, how interesting. Well, I mean, I think about that, just thinking about the emphasis in education now for young people around STEM learning, for folks that have maybe heard that term. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And everything you're describing just feels like it leans in so hard to that idea of STEM learning. I know I was introduced through one of your colleagues at the library to the concept of sewing machines as really one of the absolute core STEM learning, that three-dimensional design is sewing, and that it's one of the first introductions for a lot of young people to this idea of three-dimensional design. So not surprising that the kids, younger kids maybe have a higher level of fluency and comfort than some of us who maybe did not have STEM education when we were in school. So what changes have you seen among your members, or sort of what has made the Innovation Lab possible for people who walk through your doors?
So for us, sometimes immediate and sometimes over time, the biggest change is really like just confidence level and really that sense of belonging in the space. I mean, yeah, people walk in sometimes not knowing. They just come in with a question. They're just curious, or they stumble upon us sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's just really nice to see something spark when they see a sewing machine, a project that's on display, and there's just something sparks in their eyes. And then they can kind of see through our tour and then through our stories, it's like, oh, I can do something like that. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, it's just that they are just building skills and they're applying it to their life in different ways.
Andrea, would you answer? I mean, do you have thoughts on how you see change happen for folks that come through your doors?
Well, yeah, definitely. Like I said before, a lot of people are scared of technology and they're worried that they might break things or damage things. But after a while, they get comfortable with the equipment and then they can show others, give others advice, and it's really nice. And people who have started with their journey, like in 3D printing and laser engraving, sometimes they may end up buying their own machine because they found they're really good at it. They had a chance to test it before committing to that amount. And then they might help others or give others advice and donate equipment for us, even if they don't use our equipment anymore themselves, which is really nice.
I mean, everything you're describing really just feels definitionally like community, that you guys are doing so much to create community. So The Innovation Lab we've been talking about is located in downtown St. Paul, right off of Rice Park at the beautiful George Latimer Central Library. And what I'm wondering is how either unique or common is this to what the experience of going into any St. Paul Public Library branch would be? And then maybe even, is this something you'd find in any sort of mid-sized, large city, something like an innovation lab or a makerspace? Where does this fit into kind of where libraries are today and where we're headed?
Yeah, so within St. Paul Public Library, it is a unique space because it is an adult space, not adult only all the time, but an adult friendly space. And you can't find it in all of our libraries, but we do have the teen maker space called Create Tech, and then there are Create Tech type nights and programs at other library locations. But yes, this is unique. It's also very unique in that we are a free maker space. So you can't find too many of those anywhere in the Twin Cities. And then as far as is it unique to libraries? It's a growing type of space and just collection of programs as well. So you can find it in other library systems. And it just looks a little bit differently. Not everyone has a membership set up. We've opted for a membership and then targeting adults just because that's just been the need that we've identified here.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a perfectly appropriate moment, though, to sort of pause and say, yes, you may be starting to find these in other cities. But Zinnia, I'm going to toot your horn for a second because you were recently recognized on a national scale as one of the 2022 movers and shakers by Library Journal, which is our professional publication for the whole field. And I think it really speaks to the vision and leadership that you bring to your role, but also the team, obviously, that you work with in the library here in St. Paul, but just super proud to support that work, but also yay you. It's nice to see that this is emerging in libraries across the field, but not at all surprised to know that you are moving and shaking and leading the way in this national movement towards more maker spaces, recognizing different learning styles and being really responsive to the needs of the community. So just got to pause there and go, yay, congratulations. It's a big deal.
Thank you very much. Definitely, it's all a team effort for sure.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, as we start wrapping up, what haven't I asked about that you would want to know? And be sure to tell us, if people want to learn more, where should they go to learn more about the Innovation Lab?
Our website is sppl.org, www.sppl.org/the-lab, or you can search Innovation Lab at www.sppl.org. We have our list of equipment, our new member orientation. We have some other online trainings on laser engraver, 3D printer, and recording studio as well.
And is there anything that I didn't ask about or things that you find yourself telling your friends or family about work that you want to make sure to share with us today?
Well, I think we didn't mention that the laser engraver is the absolutely coolest thing in the world.
Oh, well, then let's pause.
So,
we focused on sewing machines and 3D
yes,
printers. Let's have a laser engraver moment.
yeah.
Tell us what that is and why it's the coolest piece in the lab.
Yeah. A laser engraver uses a laser, so a beam of light. You import your design, a 2D design through a 2D design program like CorelDRAW, Illustrator, or Inkscape, and it will be able to you'll be able to create both engraving and cutting on the same material at the same time. So the options are just almost limitless. You can use it on wood, paper, stone, glass, acrylic, ceramics. It's just felt denim. There's just amazing how many things you can do.
What is something that I could make with the laser engraver and take home?
Well, we just had someone make some commemorative wine glasses for an event, a nonprofit's event. So they had the date and the name of the nonprofit on them. So it's really fun to make little commemorative items. You can make business cards, fun business cards out of like metal or wood. A lot of advertising things like coasters or paperweights people make. Some people also make more tech things, like someone made a whole computer keyboard out of wood one time. That was fun.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's fantastic. And Xenia, what would you want us to be thinking about, and what would you want to tell us that we haven't asked about when it comes to the Innovation Lab?
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know if it's something you haven't asked, but what I would love people to take away is that this is a space for you. It doesn't matter what skill level you're at, what your goal might be, or your dream, or your age. Like, you are welcome to come in. We are all about helping you explore and troubleshoot, and there's a lot of troubleshooting. So this is not always a smooth process, but we're here to help. So yeah, this is the space for you, and I hope you get to see that in the videos and then come and explore for yourself.
Great. Well, thank you for referencing the video. We appreciate having that quick tour of the Innovation Lab. And I'm so grateful for both of your time today, and then on a daily basis, just what you are bringing to all of us in the community by bringing the Innovation Lab to such an accessible place. And really, I feel that sense of welcome, and I'm thinking about like, oh, I need to digitize some slides. I'm going to make some wine glasses for my friends. I mean, it's really remarkable. And again, proud to be affiliated with it, grateful to our donors who support programs that make things like the Innovation Lab possible. But really, I feel this at the end of every one of these interviews. There is no library without the library's people. And so to both of you as staff who make this work possible, and come with just this ethos of caring and generosity and welcome, I'm just so grateful to you both. So thank you for your time today, and thank you for your work on an ongoing basis. And thanks for sharing the Innovation Lab with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.